Hey, if you are interested in living longer, then simply going for a walk may be the best thing that you can do for your health. I actually have people ask me this quite often. They say, if all I've got time to do is go for a walk, is it really worth it? And I say 100% it is absolutely worth going for a walk. And I'm going to go through why that's so useful for you. But there are a ton of misconceptions out there when it comes to exercise. Things like, if I'm not hot and sweaty when I'm done, it was a waste of time. Or if my muscles aren't sore after training, then I didn't train hard enough. Or things like, if some is good, more has to be better, right? And these kind of thoughts and processes are so pervasive in our culture and our exercise discussions, but none of them are actually true. Because when it comes to exercise and the benefits of exercise, they are actually found not in how you feel after the exercise, though that can be a real positive, but in how your body adapts to the stimulus which you've placed on it. Exercise is a stimulus to the body to adapt and get stronger, or to, pull back or get damaged, etc. So what we want to do is create the right amount of stimulus that we get a positive adaptation response, and we get stronger, we get more resilient, we get fitter, etc. from it. Now, last week Ollie talked about zone 2 training, and he talked about it through the lens of fat loss, and how when you get your heart rate just up above that resting rate into sort of 60% of your max heart rate, you get into what's called zone 2. And zone 2 is really unique in that in this zone you'll have a slightly elevated heart rate, your breathing may increase a little bit, you can go for a very long time because it's not too strenuous, and your body predominantly will be burning fat for fuel. Now this can be really good from a fat loss perspective, can be really good if you're metabolically unhealthy and you've got blood sugar issues or all of that sort of thing. But I want to talk about zone 2 through the lens of longevity, because zone 2 training is a powerful tool we have when it comes to longevity as well, and it's for a few different reasons. But to understand longevity, we need to understand what VO2 max is. So VO2 max is a marker that we have which measures how much oxygen we can extract from the air and get into our muscles while we're exercising. It's a measure which declines as we age due to various metabolic changes, due to fitness decline, due to heart muscle and blood vessel decline, etc. And it declines as we have ill health, as we're more sedentary. And so being able to understand what VO2 max is and how zone 2 training can have a really big impact on its level is what I want to talk you through today. So if I just circle back there for a minute, the reason I think VO2 max is such a strong indicator for longevity, because we actually have a few other markers for longevity as well. There's things like grip strength and walking speed, and then there's blood markers as well. But I think VO2 max probably has the strongest link, a correlation to longevity, and it's because to have a good VO2 max, you have to have good overall health, you have to have good overall fitness levels, you have to have good overall metabolic health and muscle mass, etc. So it's a very all-encompassing marker. Now, let's look at the way that zone 2 training helps VO2 max. So zone 2 training, like I said, is about 60% of your max heart rate, which is going to be declining with age. So this is something that you'll have to work out. But when you're in that space, a couple of things happen. So the first one is that your heart pump volume is stimulated to increase. So our heart contracts and pumps oxygen-rich blood out into our body from the left ventricle. Now, the left ventricle typically, if your blood pressure is increasing, if you're sedentary, will actually decrease in size, and each pump of the heart doesn't move as much blood out into the tissue because the ventricle is smaller. Now, zone 2 training, because it requires this demand of oxygen within the body, the heart muscle responds by over time remodeling and increasing the size of that left ventricle. Now, what that does is that every pump of the heart, as the ventricle size increases, means that you get more blood flow out into the body as a result. That means that your heart doesn't have to work as hard to move the blood, okay, because it moves more in one go. So this is the first benefit, is that when you do some zone 2 training and you put that gentle stimulus on the heart to move a bit more oxygen into the body, the heart muscle responds, because we're always adapting, always changing over time, by increasing that left ventricle size. So it's a really positive adaptation that occurs as a result of that zone 2 training. The next one is that it improves the dilation of our blood vessels. So it's all well and good if the left ventricle is able to pump more blood, but if the blood's not able to get out to our legs, our arms, whatever we're needing to move, then we've got a bit of a problem. And as we age, as our metabolic health declines, as our blood pressure goes up, etc., the dilation or the relaxation ability of our blood vessels actually declines. This means that the blood might be being pumped in, but it's not really able to move out to the tissues very effectively. And so what happens with zone 2 training as well, because there's this stimulus, because there's this demand on the body to move more oxygen, the blood vessels remodel, they become stretchy again, they become able to dilate, they get that message from the brain to dilate and allow more blood to flow through. So it can be really, really positive for if you've got high blood pressure, if you've had heart issues in the past, to just gently improve that kind of dilation and relaxation of your blood vessels out into your body. The other part here is that the blood has to come from the heart, right? Goes out into the blood vessels, and then to actually get into the tissues, into the muscles where it can get absorbed into the cells and used to produce energy, it has to diffuse through the capillaries. Now, capillaries are the really, really fine blood vessels that are kind of infiltrated into all of our tissue. And they're the ones that suffer first, to be honest, when it comes to poor metabolic health. So high blood sugar, high blood pressure, those two things absolutely destroy the capillary beds in our tissue. So even if the blood's getting to the area, might not actually be getting into the tissue in the same way as if we had healthy capillaries. And you see this in people, perhaps diabetics or type 2 diabetics, where there's, they have trouble healing. They might end up with ulcers or stuff in their toes and feet. That is to do with the poor blood flow in and out of the tissues as a result of the die-off in capillaries and blood flow, etc. So what we need to be able to do in order to get oxygen to our muscles and to our tissues is to have really healthy capillary beds. Now, when we do zone 2 training, and again, there's this gentle stimulus on the body to upregulate these systems and improve that oxygen delivery from lungs to tissue, is we see this kind of regrowing of capillary beds and a redevelopment of the capillaries. Our body's always able to adapt. It's always looking to repair and recover things that have been damaged, and there is actually, we can actually improve that. So the zone 2 training has this really full body effect from lung capacity, which in a lot of people is okay unless you've got asthma or various allergies or whatnot. A lot of people generally have pretty good lung capacity. The limitation is in the heart and and how it actually is moving that oxygen rich blood, and then all the way out to the muscles, where it has to diffuse through the blood vessel wall and into the muscle tissue to be used for energy. So getting into this slightly elevated heart rate, that 60% Tmax heart rate, and just spending some time there and giving that gentle stimulus to your body to train it to adapt is one of the best things you can do to improve your VO2 max. Because remember, VO2 max is about how much oxygen you can take and deliver while you're exercising. So it's not always about going harder, getting really tuckered out, feeling that burn in your lungs. It's about, do you even have the machinery to get it from A to B in the first place? And zone 2 training helps with that. Now, if we bring this back to longevity for a minute, there's obviously the VO2 max piece and that delivery of oxygen, but that also is impacted by our metabolic health. And our metabolic health is our blood sugar balance, our cholesterol, etc., our muscle mass. So you can see how when it comes to training, it's not just more is better, or did you feel sore after the fact, or did you sweat, or did you get, tuckered out or whatever. It's what's actually happened internally, and is that a positive for what your body needs in order to get stronger and fitter and healthier. So it brings some intention to what we're doing. It brings some intention to training and really thinking about the progressive stimulus that that's having on our muscles. So not just flinging dumbbells around, but actually getting stronger over time. And cardio, not just, wringing your heart out, but actually intentionally improving your cardio health over time with the intention of improving your VO2 max. So this is something that we do through the program with clients. We're really looking at intentional training, and we have a workout reset which I would love to make available for you. It will be linked below, and this looks at a progressive strength training program, but also that discussion of high intensity as well, because that's another area where often it's kind of done in that moderate range, and the impact is not the same as when we really get into those short, sharp bursts of high intensity, and then some balancing that out with some of the lower intensity time spent in zone 2, all sandwiched together with a really nice progressive strength training program. So if longevity is something that you want, and I think probably we could all honestly answer that would be something we would want, then check out that link below, and hopefully this was useful in just kind of understanding why, if all you've got time for is a walk, then you are absolutely not wasting your time by doing that, because the body gets a response from that regardless of how that you feel after the fact. So if this is a motivation to go out for a walk, I'm glad. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. See ya.